The Dead Marshes stretched out like a decaying wound upon Middle-earth, a cursed expanse where the past refused to be laid to rest. The air was heavy with the stench of stagnant water and rotting vegetation, while a ghostly mist slithered through gnarled reeds and twisted roots, carrying with it faint, indistinct whispers as if recounting long-forgotten laments. Travelers who dared to tread this haunted land spoke in hushed tones of eyes beneath the water, eyes that did not blink, faces that defied decay, forever trapped in a glassy, mournful embrace. This was no ordinary swamp, it was a living relic of ancient sorrow, a place where the memory of lost souls lingered like a perpetual nightmare. Once, the land that would become the Dead Marshes was not a forsaken bog but the site of a mighty and brutal battle. It was here that the armies of elves and men clashed with the dark forces of Sauron in a desperate struggle that shook the very foundations of the world. The soil, once proud and firm, was saturated with the blood of heroes and villains alike, and as the final cries of battle faded, the fallen were left without proper rest. Over time, the weight of tragedy proved too great for the land, and it softened under endless grief, swallowing bodies and memories alike. Thus was born the Dead Marshes, a vast, sorrowful graveyard without tombstones, where the spirits of the departed could not find peace. Eldon, a grizzled ranger of the north, had grown up on tales of these cursed lands, though he had never truly believed them. A man forged by the unforgiving wilderness, he trusted the tangible world of wind, stone, and blood far more than the ephemeral whispers of legend. Yet, as he ventured into the heart of the marshes one overcast afternoon, a palpable sense of dread gripped him. Each step he took through the treacherous, mud-laden paths felt as though he were treading on the edge of a long-forgotten tragedy. The silence was oppressive, only the occasional distant croak of a frog or the soft ripple of unseen movement in the water broke the monotony, and every so often, he glimpsed a pale, ghostly glow emerging from the murk. These spectral visions, resembling wraith-like figures with hollow eyes, he dismissed as mere tricks of the light. Just reflections, he murmured to himself, striving to quell the rising unease. But as he pressed deeper, the reflections remained unnervingly static, unmoved by the stirring air. When a sudden gust of wind swept over the marsh, it carried with it a faint, almost imperceptible whisper that sent a shiver racing down his spine. His pace quickened, the squelching of his boots in the sodden earth and the gentle rustle of the reeds hinted at unseen forces brushing past him in silent warning. Then, amidst the oppressive gloom, Eldon saw it, a face, unmistakably human, hovering just beneath the water's surface. The visage was pale, almost translucent, with wide, empty eyes that seemed to stare into the endless void. For a moment, time itself appeared to hold its breath. Eldon crouched down, straining to peer closer, and in a moment that defied reason, the face shifted, a slow, deliberate movement where the lips parted as if trying to speak. Shock and terror gripped him, his heart pounded so fiercely that it threatened to burst from his chest. Before he could react further, a cold, clammy hand emerged from the depths and grasped at his ankle. Eldon staggered, struggling desperately to free himself. When at last he wrenched his leg free, the spectral hand had vanished, leaving behind only disturbed ripples that distorted the face until it was swallowed by darkness. Without a moment's hesitation, Eldon fled, his ragged breaths echoing his mounting terror. The marshes seemed to close in around him, the ghostly whispers growing louder, a cacophony of voices just beyond comprehension, urging him to stop, to look back, to surrender. He did not dare break into a backward glance until he reached solid ground at the swamp's edge. Only then, chest heaving and mind reeling, did he risk a final look back over his shoulder. The water lay undisturbed, its haunted surface betraying no sign of the faces that had tormented him. Yet, deep down, he knew that the Dead Marshes were far from empty, they had never been truly forsaken. In the aftermath of that harrowing encounter, Eldon found no solace among the villagers. Their eyes held the same haunted look he now wore, a silent understanding that some truths were too terrible to speak aloud. One elder, a wizened woman named Halia, took him aside and recounted an age-old tale passed down through generations. According to her, before the marshes became a realm of eternal sorrow, the land had been home to a thriving city, a beacon of hope and culture that was utterly obliterated by the ravages of war. The catastrophe had not only claimed the lives of its inhabitants but had also infused the very soil with their despair. "They are held here by a sorrow older than the world," Halia whispered, her voice trembling with the weight of loss. "The dead do not rest in peace because the land itself has never forgiven." Her words lingered in Eldon's mind like a curse, deepening his understanding of the marsh's grim legacy. The mystery of the spectral faces was the subject of much debate among scholars of Middle-earth. Some argued that the eerie lights were nothing more than optical illusions, reflections distorted by the stagnant water and the thick, oppressive fog. Others contended that these faces were the souls of the fallen, bound to the marshes by an ancient, unbreakable curse. Even Gandalf had once cautioned Frodo and Sam against gazing into the water, dismissing the apparitions as mere phantoms of a long-lost era. Yet Eldon's own experience had forced him to confront a reality that was far more sinister. The water did not simply mirror the dead, it imprisoned them. There were whispers among the learned that the Dead Marshes were a place where the veil between the living and the dead was perilously thin. Some believed that the cursed water acted as a mirror that not only reflected the visage of its inhabitants but also captured their very essence, trapping their souls in a state of perpetual unrest. At night, the marshes would come alive with ghostly luminescence, dim, flickering lights that danced across the water's surface, as if beckoning lost souls to join an eternal, sorrowful vigil. Those who ventured too deeply into this haunted realm often spoke of seeing full-bodied apparitions drifting silently in a macabre waltz, their movements slow and agonizing, as though each step was a reminder of a fate too terrible to escape. Haunted by these mysteries, Eldon resolved to return to the marshes, determined to uncover the truth behind the spectral faces. On a chill, fog-bound night, armed with only his bow and a small lantern that cast a feeble glow against the encroaching darkness, he stepped back into the cursed lands. The water was eerily still, and the familiar oppressive silence of the marshes weighed upon him like a shroud. Every step was a battle against the unseen forces that sought to pull him back into the depths. As he moved slowly, the lantern's light revealed countless faces emerging from the water, each one a silent testament to unending grief. Their expressions were etched with despair and sorrow, and though they appeared still, Eldon could feel their silent plea for release, a desperate yearning to be remembered and freed from their watery prison. In that dreadful moment, as the ghostly assembly stared up at him, one of the faces shifted imperceptibly. Its lips parted ever so slightly, and from the depths of its hollow eyes came a faint whisper, a sound so soft it was almost lost in the lapping of the water. The whispered word, barely audible, carried a weight of ancient sorrow and unfathomable loss. Eldon's heart pounded, and a surge of cold dread gripped him. He understood then that the marshes were not merely a repository for the dead, but a living, breathing embodiment of tragedy, a prison of despair that ensnared the souls of those who had fallen in battle, leaving them to languish for all eternity. With every ounce of strength, Eldon fought against the suffocating pull of the marshes. He forced himself to retreat, each step a monumental effort as the spectral voices swelled around him, pleading, warning, and lamenting all at once. By the time he emerged once more into the relative safety of solid ground, the night air seemed a fragile reprieve from the terror he had witnessed. Yet, even as he fled, the haunting memory of the ghostly faces remained burned into his mind, a reminder that the Dead Marshes were far more than a tragic relic of the past. They were an active, malignant force that threatened to claim any who dared to challenge its dominion. The legend of the Dead Marshes grew in the years that followed, becoming a somber warning whispered among those who still dared to traverse Middle-earth. The marsh was not simply a battlefield turned bog, it was a realm where the living and the dead converged, where ancient curses held sway, and where the boundary between memory and reality was perilously thin. The spectral faces, those eternal witnesses to a forgotten war, served as a grim testament to the enduring power of sorrow and the inexorable pull of the past. As the marsh slowly expanded, inch by inch, it threatened to engulf not only the remnants of a once proud civilization but also the hopes and dreams of the living. In the quiet hours of night, when the fog was at its densest and the world seemed to hold its breath, the Dead Marshes whispered with the voices of the lost. Their words were a melancholic chorus, a ceaseless lament that spoke of endless regret and unfulfilled destinies. For those who listened too long, the marshes offered a glimpse into a realm of eternal mourning, a place where even the bravest souls risked being swallowed by despair. And so the Dead Marshes endured, a living monument to the cruelty of fate and the indomitable sorrow of a war that had left its mark on the very heart of Middle-earth. Eldon's harrowing journey into the depths of the marshes did not provide the answers he sought, instead, it only deepened the mystery. The spectral faces remained as enigmatic as ever, a silent, eternal vigil over a land steeped in tragedy. And as the years passed, their presence became a dark legend, a cautionary tale whispered around fires and in the hushed corridors of ancient halls. The Dead Marshes were a stark reminder that some wounds, no matter how deeply inflicted, never truly heal, and that the past, with all its horrors and heartaches, always finds a way to resurface. In the end, the Dead Marshes stood as an enduring symbol of loss and despair, a place where the souls of the fallen were forever trapped, their faces a permanent imprint on the landscape of Middle-earth. And on nights when the mist rolled in thick and the stars were hidden by a pall of gloom, one could almost hear the voices of the dead rising from the water, their lament a timeless echo of a sorrow that would never fade.